The bartender placed the ring box exactly where I asked. Edge of the bar, by the napkin holder, right under the little chalkboard that said Thirsty Thursdays. He didn't ask questions this time. Just gave me that slow, confused look like he wanted to say something, but decided it wasn't worth the energy. His hands were still wet from scooping ice. Some of it had spilled. A few stray cubes lay melting where her elbow would rest. It felt symbolic, I guess, like no matter how cold someone starts, they eventually melt under the right pressure. But she never did. I walked out before they arrived. Didn't need to see it. I'd seen enough already. 2 booths back from the left wall. That's where they always sat. She liked that angle. Good view of the mirror, but not too close to it. She once told me mirrors make people behave better. Makes them see themselves. She said that on our 3rd date. I remembered it for some stupid reason. Anyway, I left. Drove 2 blocks. Parked behind the florist's shop. Killed the engine. Sat there in dead silence. And waited. My phone stayed in my lap. Face down. Didn't buzz once. Which was expected. She thought I was at my cousin's poker night. There was no cousin. There was no poker night. But there was a mistake. And it started 2 months ago when I walked past her laptop and saw her calendar open. Not her work calendar, the personal one she never shared with me. Just one repeating event every Thursday. Run club, Millie's after. She doesn't run. She hasn't run in years. Not since her back injury. And yet there it was. Every Thursday. Blocked from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Run club. Millie's after. It wasn't the lie that bothered me most. It was how boring it was. Lazy. Sloppy. Like I wasn't even worth a creative excuse. The first Thursday, I followed her. Just to prove myself wrong. The second Thursday, I followed again. This time with a burner phone recording video. The third Thursday, I walked into Millie's alone. Sat at the bar. Close enough to hear her laugh at his stories. She laughed in that breathy way she used to laugh with me when we were still new. Still curious. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. But the fourth Thursday, that was the one. That's when I handed the bartender the ring box, still warm from my pocket. Told him to give it to her the next week, when she showed up again with the same guy. Told him not to say my name. Told him not to look at her face. I didn't tell him this part, but I was hoping it'd be the first thing in years she couldn't laugh off. When I drove past Millie's again later that night, she was outside. Alone. Staring at the box like it was ticking. And what she did next wasn't loud. It was worse. She didn't call. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not even to lie. Instead, I got a text from her sister. Hey, Becca's feeling weird. You guys okay? I didn't respond. If her sister didn't know, I wasn't going to be the one to break it to her. The truth? I didn't expect silence. I expected rage. Tears. A panicked call begging to talk, telling me it wasn't what it looked like. Something. Anything. But silence. That was new. I went through her phone once. Just once. 2 weeks before I left the ring. She was in the shower, and her phone buzzed twice. Both from a contact named Elroy's group. Sounded innocent. Group chat. Probably a work thread. But curiosity is a parasite, and mine had been chewing through my brain for months. I didn't need her passcode. She hadn't changed it since 2019. I opened the chat, and it was not a group. It was one guy. The guy from Millie's. His name was Griffin, which was dumb. He sent voice notes. Half of them were deleted by her. The other half weren't even explicit. They were emotional. You make me feel seen. I wish I met you sooner. You bring me peace. Peace. I used to bring her that. Now I brought laundry baskets and dinner receipts. One message from her stuck with me. It just said, I feel like I'm waking up after being asleep for years. I don't want to go back to sleep. She never said my name. Not once. I don't know if that made it better or worse. After I left the ring with the bartender, I started noticing things. Noticing how quiet the house was when she was home. Noticing she took phone calls in the backyard. Noticing she stopped asking me how my day was, like it was too much emotional labor to pretend. But then, one small thing broke the spell. A paper flyer. It was jammed into the screen door one afternoon. Bright orange. Some new gym nearby, advertising beginner classes. On the back, it had a calendar with free community club nights. Thursday, run club, 7 p.m., meet downstairs in the rec room. Rec room? What rec room? I looked up the address. It wasn't a park. It was a fitness building next to a vape shop, sandwiched between a mattress outlet and a sketchy massage place. The parking lot was half dirt. I drove there. Parked. Watched. At 6:59 p.m. sharp, I saw her car pull in. She got out in yoga pants and a tight hoodie I hadn't seen before. She looked nervous, glanced at herself in the rearview mirror, checked her phone, then walked in through a side door marked Authorized Access Only. Run club, my ass. I waited 10 minutes before getting out. The place wasn't loud. It wasn't full of people stretching or tying sneakers. It was quiet. Too quiet for a group of runners. I walked around back, found a side window cracked open, peered inside. That's when I saw it. A basement lit with string lights. Tables. Chairs. Music playing low. Candles. Actual candles. It wasn't a club. It was a setup. And then I saw her, Becca, sitting across from Griffin. He slid something across the table. Not a ring. Not a drink. Something else. A photo. She nodded. Smiled. I felt something inside me start to loosen. Not snap. Not break. Just slide. Like the final thread giving out. I went home. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just opened my laptop and made 3 searches. How to remove someone from a mortgage without divorce. How to reset garage door codes. Can emotional cheating be considered abandonment in Indiana law? I didn't know what I was doing yet, but I knew this. Next Thursday, they'd walk into Millie's again. And when she saw what I left behind, everything she'd built outside our marriage would start to crack. The first voicemail didn't bother me. Not really. It was just static, followed by some background noise. Laughter, clinking glasses, maybe a faint cough. No words. Just 37 seconds of untraceable nothing, like someone pocket-dialed me from a restaurant. It was the second one that stopped my hand mid-shave. It came on a Monday afternoon while I was trimming the patchy mess I call a beard. I didn't notice the phone buzz at first, but when I picked it up, there it was, 49 seconds of Griffin's voice, sent directly to my number, no caller ID. Like the universe forgot to protect her secret this time. I know this can't last forever, he said, his voice calm, soft, too intimate for anyone but her. But if he ever finds out, I hope you remember what we talked about. The plan's still there. You just say the word. Click. No names. No context. No need. I stood in front of the mirror, razor still humming in my hand, staring at the man I barely recognized. My face looked older than it should. Hollow. Like someone had gone in and scooped something out of me without permission. What plan? I didn't ask her that night. I didn't mention the voicemail, or the photo I saw her receive in that basement, or the lies wrapped in yoga pants and scented candles. Instead, I made dinner. I set the table. I asked how her day was. She blinked at me. You okay? I nodded. Of course. Just trying to be more present. She smiled at that. A weak, distant smile. The kind you give to an old teacher you don't remember the name of. Later that night, I went to get my hoodie from the hall closet and saw her keys hanging beside mine. Except, her house key was missing. Not the car key. Not the office key. Just the key to our home. At first I thought maybe she dropped it or lent it to someone. But when I picked up the ring it used to hang from, I noticed something else. It wasn't just removed. It had been replaced with a fresh silver key I didn't recognize. I stood there for a long time, hearing in one hand, heart thudding like a fist against a locked door. There was no reason for her to have a new key, unless she was preparing for a new lock, or a new home, or both. The next morning, she told me we were having company for dinner. Her coworker, she said. Someone from the curriculum development team. Just for a quick catch-up, she said while pouring her cereal like nothing was strange. Which coworker? I asked. She didn't look up. You don't know him. Him. Of course. I offered to cook. She said no. She'd order Thai. His favorite, apparently. He's allergic to peanuts, she added, offhand, like she'd memorized his entire medical chart. The dinner was set for Thursday. Same night as Millie's. Same night she always ran while I watched TV. But this time, she wouldn't be running. She'd be here. With him. I spent the next few hours not thinking. Just moving. Cleaning the garage. Changing the Wi-Fi password. Locking the side gate. Rechecking the burner phone I kept hidden in the sock drawer. And then I remembered something. The bartender at Millie's still had the ring box. I'd asked him to give it to her the next Thursday, but now, plans had changed. So I drove to the bar in the middle of the day, when it was mostly empty. The same guy was there, wiping glasses with the TV on mute. I slid onto the stool. You still got that thing I left? I asked quietly. He nodded, reached beneath the bar, and pulled it out, unopened, untouched. I changed my mind, I said. I need it back. He hesitated. Everything okay, man? I smiled, but it didn't reach anything in me. Not even close. As I left, I passed a couple laughing at a booth near the back. The girl wore a burgundy sweater. Not Becca, but it made my throat tighten anyway. That night, I placed the box in a new spot, somewhere far more visible, right on the center of our dining table. She'd see it the moment she came in. So would he. Let them wonder what was inside. Let them sweat. Because inside that box wasn't the ring anymore. It was something better. Thursday night came colder than it should have for October. The kind of chill that seeps into your joints before you even notice the wind. I turned the heat up in the house, not because I needed it, but because I wanted them to feel something when they walked in. I set the table. Candles, folded napkins, wine already breathing in the decanter we hadn't used since our 3rd anniversary. Everything looked perfect, except the small black box at the center where the breadbasket should have been. She'd see it. He'd see it. Neither of them would say anything at first, but they'd feel it. That was the point. Becca texted at 6:12, running late. Be there by 7:30. Don't wait to start apps if you're hungry, smiley face. The smiley killed me. I stared at it for 10 minutes. That stupid yellow energy in a sentence I wasn't part of. I didn't reply. At 7:27, headlights flashed across the living room curtain. I shut off the TV, stood up, smoothed my shirt. My heart was calm, numb, almost. The door opened. Becca walked in first. Light makeup, beige blouse, necklace I didn't recognize. She smiled like everything was normal. Hey, sorry we're. Then she saw the box, and her face froze mid-expression. Her eyes snapped to mine. She didn't move, didn't speak, just blinked. Once, then again, like her brain was buffering. Behind her, footsteps. Griffin, not dressed like I expected. No suit, no smug, overconfident swagger. Just a gray pullover, hands tucked into his pockets, looking around the house like he didn't want to be there. No jacket, no wine bottle, no polite hello. Becca turned toward him quickly and said, "Go wait in the car." I wasn't ready for that. Neither was he. He paused like she'd just slapped him. "You serious?" he said. She nodded, firm this time. "Just wait." He left. Didn't slam the door. Just pulled it shut like he knew something was wrong. She walked to the table, touched the box, but didn't open it. Her voice was quieter than I've ever heard it. "What's in it?" I pulled out a chair, sat down slowly. "Not what you think." I didn't say I was thinking anything. "That's funny," I said. "Because 2 weeks ago, you were thinking Run Club had a basement with wine and slow jazz." She flinched. Actually flinched. "Did you follow me?" "No," I said, lying. "But you're not exactly good at hiding. Yoga pants don't erase red wine breath." She didn't sit. Just stood there. Still touching the box. Still not opening it. "So what is it?" she asked again, quieter. "A copy," I said, "of our mortgage. And your signed cohabitation affidavit from 2019. Her fingers curled back like the box was hot. "I've been preparing," I added, "in case this thing of yours kept going." She finally sat, like her knees gave out beneath her. "You think I wanted this?" she said. "You think I planned any of it?" "I think," I replied, leaning forward. "You stopped looking at me like I existed months ago. I just didn't want to see it." She didn't cry, didn't shout, but her hand started shaking, ever so slightly. She folded it into her lap to hide it. "You didn't do anything wrong, Emory," she whispered. "You just stopped being in the room. You were here, but not here." I laughed. It came out bitter. "Ugly. That's funny. Because I was here every night. And you? You were out learning someone else's allergies." She didn't deny it. Instead, she stood up, walked to the door, and called Griffin back in. He entered, slower this time, like he'd been warned. "You should go," she said to him. "Both of us need to talk. Alone." I didn't expect that. He looked at her, then at me. For a second I thought he'd argue. He didn't. He just turned around and left. Again. Still no jacket. I waited until the door shut again before speaking. "What's the plan?" I asked. "You think you're going to live some fairy tale? With a guy who hides in basements while you lie about running laps?" "I don't know what the plan is," she said. "I just know I couldn't breathe in this house anymore. And now." She looked at the box again. This time, she opened it. Inside wasn't the ring. It was a thumb drive. She picked it up slowly. "What's on this?" she asked. I smiled, and it was the only real smile I gave her all night. "Proof that you should have picked someone who doesn't use the same Apple ID for both devices." She went pale. And for the first time since this all started, she was the one who couldn't speak. She didn't open the drive that night. She just held it, tucked it into her palm like it might dissolve if she squeezed hard enough. I could see her throat twitch, her eyes darting, like she was doing damage control inside her head. I didn't press. I just stood up, collected the plates no one used, and walked into the kitchen without another word. She didn't follow me. Not immediately. I heard her still sitting in the dining room, probably trying to guess how much I knew, not realizing how much she'd left in plain sight. The truth is, I hadn't even meant to check the cloud. The Apple ID sync was an accident. I'd reset her old tablet 2 months ago when I needed something to read PDFs on at work. Thought I'd wiped it clean, but when I connected it to our shared charger one night, the device lit up, and her messages started flowing in like they'd never stopped. Not texts, voice memos, dozens of them, all backed up, all marked G. I never knew she liked sending voice notes. She never did it with me. The memos weren't even steamy. That's what made them worse. They were soft, personal, honest in a way she hadn't been with me in years. In one of them, she said, "He looks so tired lately. I think he knows, but he won't say it. That scares me. I don't want him to hate me, but I also don't want to stay." I played that one 4 times, not because I liked hearing it, but because I needed to understand how long she'd felt that way. The thumb drive had 12 of those memos. And one other thing, a photo she took of a document. It wasn't meant for my eyes. It was a rental application, signed by her and Griffin, dated 2 weeks prior. Attached was a floor plan for a 2-bedroom condo in a part of town I never go to. Her name was printed cleanly at the bottom, Rebecca May Keller. Keller, not my last name. Her maiden name. I hadn't even realized she changed it back. I don't remember much about the hours after that. Just that I didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch, listening to the heating system click and groan while she paced the hallway like a ghost behind the wall. In the morning, she left early. Didn't take the drive. Didn't take much of anything, really. Her toothbrush was still in the holder. Her favorite mug was still in the drying rack. But her laptop was gone. And so was the jacket with the house key. She didn't say goodbye. At 9:12 a.m., I made a phone call I'd rehearsed 100 times in my head. Donnelly and Stiles, the voice said. "How can I help you?" "My name is Emory Vance," I replied. "I need to talk to someone about dissolving a joint mortgage, and possibly more." They connected me to a man named Marlon. Calm voice. Asked the right questions. Didn't judge. I explained everything. The apartment plans. The affair. The synced messages. The fake run club. The emotional abandonment. All of it. And when I mentioned Griffin's full name, Marlon went silent. "Sir," I said. "Did I lose you?" "No," he said slowly. "But I think we've crossed paths with Mr. Griffin Teal before." That name again. Griffin Teal. I hadn't known his last name until I found the lease agreement on that drive. But Marlon's voice changed when I said it. Like a puzzle piece clicked into place. He asked if I was willing to come in for a meeting that afternoon. I said yes. I printed everything, voice memo transcripts, date logs, screenshots, even the photo of the lease, and put them in a manila folder. Then I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel again, just like I had the night I left the ring at Millie's. Except this time, I wasn't shaking. I was steady, cold, like the ice never melted. At 3:10 p.m., I stepped into Marlon's office, handed him the folder, and waited while he flipped through the documents. His lips pressed into a thin line, his finger tapping softly on the edge of the photo. When he finally looked up, his tone had changed. "I'm going to say something," he said, "and I need you to be very sure before I proceed." "Okay, this man," he said, pointing at Griffin's name, "has been involved in at least 2 prior legal disputes involving hidden financial agreements and emotional coercion. One of those cases was nearly identical to what you're describing now." I stared at him. "You mean he's done this before?" Marlon nodded. "And your wife may not be the first person he's convinced to walk out of a stable life." My stomach turned. I didn't know whether to be angry at her or terrified for her. Because if that man had done this to other women, and now had her name on a lease, her keys in his hand, her trust wrapped around his finger, then this wasn't just betrayal. It was a setup, and Becca might not even know she's already being replaced. It started with a knock on the lawyer's glass door. Marlon and I had been reviewing the timeline I drafted. Every missed dinner, every Thursday run club, every financial transaction I could pull from the bank records. I hadn't realized how often Becca had withdrawn cash for errands. Too often. Round numbers. Always after 6 p.m. Always on Thursdays. But when that knock came, Marlon didn't look annoyed. He didn't even look surprised. He stood, buttoned his coat like we were going somewhere, and said, "She's early." "Who's early?" I asked, heart starting to drum again. He didn't answer until we stepped into the conference room down the hall. And there she was. A woman, maybe mid-30s, short dark hair, coat still half-zipped, hands shaking slightly as she stirred sugar into the same paper cup of coffee Marlon always offered me. Her name was Sabrina. I knew nothing about her. Except her face said she knew everything about me. She didn't smile, just nodded toward the seat across from her. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said. I sat down slowly. Marlon closed the door and remained standing. Sabrina reached into her bag, pulled out a thin folder, and slid it toward me. I didn't touch it right away. My fingers hovered like the paper might bite. "It's a copy of the same lease your wife signed," she said quietly. "Same unit. Same floor plan. Same deposit amount." I looked at her. "You're his?" "His ex. Last year. I met Griffin in the same exact way. Late-night meetups, emotional confessions, talk of escaping stale marriages. He made me feel special. Said we could start fresh somewhere nobody knew us." "And did you?" She let out a laugh, but it had no joy in it. "He took my money. Told me the place fell through. Ghosted me within 3 days. By the time I realized the lease was real and had my name on it, he'd already changed the locks." Marlon stepped forward. "We've already started a civil case for fraudulent co-tenancy. The tricky part is proving his intent. He always leaves a back door open. Technically, it's legal, but morally, he's a parasite." I stared down at the folder, blood roaring in my ears. My wife had signed a lease with a con man, and he wasn't just seducing her. He was moving her into someone else's fallout. Sabrina reached into her coat again, pulled out a second sheet. A transfer receipt. $3,000. Becca's name was listed as sender. "I think he asked her for the same thing he asked me," Sabrina whispered. "Said it was a holding fee. I'm sorry. I thought I was the last." The room started spinning in that slow, creeping way it does when you realize you've been living in a version of reality someone else curated. All those times I thought Becca was drifting because of me, they weren't even about us. They were about him. Marlon put a hand on my shoulder. "This doesn't have to end badly for you. You were honest, documented, patient. That's rare and valuable." I wanted to believe him, but something in me cracked when I got home that evening and saw the front porch light on. Becca's car was in the driveway. She hadn't said she was coming back. Inside, the hallway smelled like her perfume. The cheap vanilla one she always used too much of when she was nervous. I found her in the kitchen, standing in front of the sink, arms crossed like a scolded teenager. She didn't look up. "I need to ask you something," she said flatly. I didn't move. "What? Did you send someone to talk to me today?" I blinked. "No." She finally looked up. Her face was pale and scared. "Because I got a call this morning," she said. "Unknown number." I answered. All I heard was someone whisper my name. Then a recording played. "A recording?" She nodded. It was my voice. A memo. One of the ones I sent Griffin. A chill ran down my spine. She continued, slower this time. "I asked Griffin if he sent it. He acted confused. Then he told me I needed to calm down. Said I was acting unstable. Like I was scaring him." She looked down. "That's when it hit me," she whispered. "None of it was real. Not the apartment. Not the plans. He never told me what street it was on. I never even saw a physical key. Just a brochure." I stayed silent. Let her spiral. "I think he used me," she said, tears finally welling in her eyes. "I think he was planning to disappear. And now?" I asked coldly. She looked up, lip trembling. "Now I don't know if I'm safe." My breath caught. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt something worse. Responsible. Because I had the recordings. The backups. The sync data. I had the proof. But I hadn't been the one who called her that morning. So now the question wasn't just what Griffin was doing. It was who else was watching him. The package didn't have a return address. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, no logo, no sender. Just my name scrawled across the front in red marker. Not black, not blue. Red. Like someone wanted it to scream personal. It was there when I opened the front door the next morning, right after Becca left. She hadn't said much. Just mumbled something about needing air, or maybe closure, I don't know. I stopped trying to read her thoughts the day I found my own voice in a stranger's inbox. I brought the package inside, set it on the kitchen table, and stared at it for a good 10 minutes. I thought maybe it was legal paperwork from the lawyer. Or worse, a retaliation stunt from Griffin. I mean, if he knew we were watching him, if he had any clue the drive was duplicated, he might have tried to flip the narrative. That was always the danger with men like him. They were quiet until they weren't. I opened the package with a steak knife. Inside was a white envelope and a small voice recorder, the kind you'd expect in a 2002 detective movie, not something showing up on a real person's doorstep in the Midwest. The envelope had one sheet inside. Typed. He did the same thing to Danielle R. And her brother was a cop. You're lucky you stopped when you did. She didn't. No return name. No date. No other details. I picked up the recorder, half expecting it to explode. But it just clicked softly when I pressed play. There were no introductions. Just a low hum and a recording. A woman's voice, shaking, trying to stay calm. He said if I told anyone, he'd release the pictures. I didn't even know he took them. I just thought he liked me. I didn't think he'd go that far. A pause. A breath. Then, he used my mom's credit, too. Took out a card in her name. I found out after he vanished. She blames me. I still don't sleep. The recording ended in static. I sat there for what felt like hours, letting those words settle around me like dust. I didn't know who Danielle R. was or who sent this package. But someone knew what I was doing. Someone had been watching. And they wanted me to know something I wasn't ready to face. Griffin wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator. I called Marlon, told him what I received. He asked me to drop everything off, recorder, note, envelope, and not make any public statements yet. He also asked me to start taking photos of everything. We may need evidence of intimidation, he said. Even anonymous messages count. I agreed, but something didn't sit right. That night, I drove to the condo unit Becca and Griffin had applied for, the one Sabrina had been scammed into leasing last year. It was on the edge of town, quiet neighborhood, brand new development, with artificial grass and motion sensor streetlights. It looked clean, too clean, manufactured serenity. I parked across the street and waited. At 9:08 p.m., a van pulled into the lot. No logo. Dark gray, the kind electricians or locksmiths use. And out stepped Griffin. Alone. No flowers. No wine. No Becca. He unlocked the front door to Unit 2C with ease, like he'd done it 1,000 times. Then he came back out 3 minutes later, carrying something under his jacket, a file folder or maybe a small laptop. He looked both ways, got into the van, and drove off without headlights for half a block before they flickered on. I followed him. Stayed back. 2 car lengths. He didn't go far, just to an old strip mall downtown. Abandoned spaces, old neon signs with half the letters dead. He parked behind the building. And then he waited. I sat in my car across the lot, engine off, heart pounding. At 9:41, another car arrived. Out stepped a woman. Not Becca. Younger. Maybe late 20s. Long dark hair. She handed him something. It looked like a stack of envelopes. He kissed her cheek. And then they laughed. I took a photo. Then another. Then one more for good measure. When I showed Marlon the next morning, he leaned back in his chair and muttered, "He's already grooming the next one." But it was Becca who surprised me the most. She came back that evening, hair wet from rain, trembling as she held her phone out toward me. Her voice cracked as she said, "He blocked me. All of it. His number, the email, even the rent office. I tried to call the leasing manager, and they said Griffin never signed anything. It was just my name on the contract. Just mine." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know." She sank into the chair like the truth had just punched the breath out of her. "I thought he loved me," she whispered. "I thought I was different." That was the line that shattered something in me. Not because of what she said, but because I realized how long I'd spent wishing she thought that about me. And now? Now she was in my house, broken, humiliated, betrayed. But she wasn't mine anymore. She was his fallout. And I was the one left holding the pieces. Griffin vanished the next morning. Not metaphorically, literally. No one had seen him. His van wasn't parked at the strip mall. His number went from ringing to out of service. Even the leasing office said he'd never finalized paperwork. He was just gone. Becca came home 2 hours later with a look I didn't recognize. It wasn't guilt. Wasn't sadness. It was emptiness. The kind of hollow you only feel when you finally understand just how deep you'd been buried. She didn't say much, just walked to the dining room, sat at the same chair where I left the ring weeks ago, and whispered, "I don't think I have a place anymore." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to be right. I didn't want to say, "I told you so." I didn't want revenge. I just wanted closure. I told her she could stay in the guest room until she figured out where to go. No fighting. No cold shoulders. Just a truce. Quiet, clean, adult. She agreed. That night, I opened the drawer beside the bed and pulled out a letter I wrote but never sent. I drafted it during the worst week, the one after the fake lease, the night I left the ring at Millie's. I wrote it like I was writing to a stranger who'd stolen my wife. But now, reading it again, I realized something awful and freeing. That stranger was my wife, just not the version I married. I burned the letter in the fire pit the next morning. Didn't need it anymore. I'd already let her go. 3 days later, I got a call from Sabrina. They found Griffin. Not in handcuffs. Not hiding. He'd checked into a rehab facility 2 states away under a different name. Apparently, it wasn't just manipulation he used to feed his addiction, it was people. Their trust. Their lives. Sabrina said, "I thought I'd feel victorious. But honestly, I just want to get better. I'm done being a warning story." I told her I felt the same. That night, Becca knocked on my bedroom door. She held a small suitcase and her keys in her palm. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just said, "Thank you for not throwing me away, even when I deserved it." I nodded. Don't let him be the last person who sees your worth. Just don't let him define you. She whispered something I didn't fully catch, but I think it was, "Neither should you." Then she left. No drama. No door slamming. Just the quiet sound of healing beginning in 2 different directions. 2 months later, I moved into a new place. Smaller, sunnier, closer to work. I started going on morning walks. Got a cat named Mercury who refuses to sit still. I even signed up for a writing group. They think I'm making up these stories. I don't correct them. Last week, I stopped by Millie's tap. The bartender recognized me. "You want to leave another envelope?" he asked with a grin. I laughed. "Nah, not this time." This time, I just stayed for the wings. And for the first time in years, the music didn't sound like it was playing for someone else.